back to part 2 of episode 4 of Who is the Best Emperor, the Emperor or the Emperor. This is kind of a, was it Catching Fire or the Harry Potter films or that dreadful vampire series where they split the last part of it into 2 in order to get more money. So hopefully YouTube and Games Workshop will take that and send me some cash. Probably not. But Gavin is still here, still raring to go to rate the second Emperor, Karl-Franz. Welcome back, Gavin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
I'm glad you came back after part 1.
Well, after a stunning success, what could you say?
It was a triumph. You don't get legends like you on this channel.
Yeah, why did I agree to this?
I don't know. I turned down. Well, Duncan Rhodes was knocking at my door. Jervis Johnson was emailing me every day, but I said no. We'll get Gavin back to do part 2.
And you know what? As the first returning guest, a great honor. So I'm told, anyway.
But to sort of go completely against what we've just said there, I made a huge mistake in the last episode in the scoring system where we were scoring the God Emperor of Mankind out of a possible 50 points. But of course, anyone with any level of mathematical ability would realize that he could only score a maximum of 40 points, because if he didn't drop a point in the errors, he would still get no points. So the revised scores, he actually gets 52.5% from Gavin. So he's crossed the halfway line.
Very credible.
Goes up to a massive 27.5% for me. So 21 out of 40 for you and 11 out of 40 for me. So he's crept up a bit.
Yeah. But it just shows just how powerful he is.
Yeah. he's influenced the scores from the warp. Right. Yeah. I hold my hands up to that. I was listening to the recording after it had gone up. Oh no, there's a glaring error in the scoring system here. But never mind. Right. It's better to admit it than to cover it up, I think.
That definitely doesn't sound like the Emperor.
No, he would use his psychic powers to cover it up, but I don't have them, so I'll admit it.
There we are.
Apparently, we were wrong on the Golden Throne as well. That has been fixed by the Dark Eldar. I wasn't aware of that.
Oh. I don't think it reflects very well upon the Emperor at all.
I don't think he'd approve.
No.
Maybe he would. It's in his own interest. He could probably justify anything.
But maybe it's a bad thing.
What is it? Placing things in the law for the future, like landmines for someone else to tread on.
Yeah. What happens if the true path that the Emperor chose was for the Golden Throne to fail and for him to be released, and the Dark Eldar are messing with that?
Maybe you should write the law for 40,000.
That would be nice.
Another note, the Enclave we were talking about last time, I think they're called the Interrex, but
oh yes, yeah.
So that was it.
It's not bad.
No, I think there's probably other errors in there, but whatever. We can't address them all. We're not perfect.
Intentional.
No, yeah. It's like spot the ball competition, spot the mistake. There's no need to do another intro because we've done it. But I have received a letter, which is surprising since I never published any addresses to send a letter. But here we go. I thought I'd read this bit of fan mail. Dear Splitfire, your last episode was really good. Best guest ever. I drew a picture of me and Gavin together. Can you please give it to him? Also, can I have a signed poster of Gavin and ask him if he would come round to my house for tea? Yours, V.
Wow.
Don't know what to make of that.
A mystery persona.
What could V stand for?
Well, if we look back to the film V for Vendetta, there are many words that V could stand for.
That's true. It's half the script.
Yeah. So it could be any of those, really.
Yeah. I have my suspicions. I will try to. Do you do signed posters?
I'm sure I could do a signed poster. I assume an X is acceptable.
Yeah. There's a lot of X's on the bottom of this letter, but
I'll just copy one of those.
yeah. Well, anonymous viewer, I will try my best for that. Anyway, on to the. Is it right to do in jokes on a on a public podcast?
Yeah, and then you just have to make sure you bring the public in on the in joke. But
I'm going to keep it a mystery until the end of the series, and then I'll reveal all.
Big cliffhanger.
Yeah, might get whoever this is aimed at back on, but there's a hint.
Well, you've already narrowed it down to a couple of people. Now, it be?
Could it be the guest whose name starts with a J or an I or the other one?
Could be anything, really.
Could be.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of this joviality. We're here to talk about serious things.
Of course.
I went well down the rabbit hole with Karl-Franz. I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of notes on him.
What?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware there was that much written about him.
There is quite a lot. I've read through his army book. And there's not that much on him, but if you go down the wikis and all that, they've condensed all the lore together. There is quite a lot on him.
Okay.
I don't know if you had the same problem. I had a real issue with how to score him because he's not facing the same sort of challenges as the God Emperor of Mankind is, because it's limited to one nation on one country. On one planet.
Yes.
However, his resources are vastly inferior to what the God Emperor's got, and he's just a man. So trying to, I didn't know whether to score him highly or lowly, depending on in the context of how difficult it is for him to do all these things, versus comparing him to absolutely how much power he's got in relation to the God Emperor. So I'm not. These scores may be subject to change because I may persuade myself in the course of it.
Well, I personally tried to scale it to be appropriate. So something that was appropriate to him, so within his resources.
That was probably the logical thing to do rather than pages of notes. But we are where we are.
True. Maybe they'll come in handy.
So. Maybe we'll see if I need to start a fire later on. Maybe. Yeah. So on Rise to Power, I scored him a 6.
Oh, that's very interesting.
What did you give him?
For I also scored him a 6.
Oh, wow!
This is an interesting beginning.
It'll be the first tie of the. I gave him a 6 because up until perhaps 2 weeks before he gets elected emperor, he shows no interest or even desire in becoming the emperor.
Yep.
However, once he decides he wants to do it, he gets it done in a matter of about 4 days.
Yes.
So although he goes from 0 to 60. Even it's like we were talking about the emperor last time. When he decides he wants to go for it, he does it really quickly. Franz does it really quickly. So he ratcheted up the points there.
But yes, the initial reluctance, the initial very all right, fine, then I will. I think kind of puts it off. It's not necessarily a good person having power. It can be and it can't.
He's not doing it for personal ambition or because he wants his will to be imposed and his way or everyone else gets killed, which I suppose that's good in a ruler.
Yeah, there is that good side to it. But that's prevarication. That's lack of decision making.
Well, in the research I got, he's the son of the reigning emperor Luitpold. But that's no guarantee that he's going to be the emperor because it's voted
elective.
on by it's the elected counts pick who the next emperor is. There's some incident where the previous emperor is going for a tour of I don't know, somewhere, and he gets ambushed in the Drakvold forest by beastmen.
Yeah.
Who kill all of his Reichsguard, but he's saved at the last minute by a bunch of wood elves. And
yes.
So the emperor, the previous emperor, brings them into the whatever to thank him, to thank the wood elves. They're not interested in that. They just focus exclusively on Karl-Franz and give this some sort of cryptic message to him as a child of break it, then make it whole again.
Yeah,
So,
which
he's sort of picked from a very young age to be some sort of ruler of destiny, which he then does nothing with.
All right, fine, thanks. Perhaps, maybe there was one of these weird crossovers in time, and that message ended up with the God Emperor. And Karl-Franz got a different message.
Well, so when the Wood Elves gone back and I don't know, whatever the god says, you did tell the Emperor to break it. Yeah, we told Karl-Franz. Oh, no.
It's just one of those classic misunderstandings.
That's a proper crossing of the streams there.
Well, there is some weight to the idea that Warhammer World exists within the Warhammer 40k universe.
No, it doesn't. That's rubbish. It's not some planet that's lost in the warp. That is absolutely debunked. They're totally separate. It's just coincidence. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Just coincidence.
It is. I'll possibly accept that the polar vortexes do lead to the same warp, but it's not
that's
a planet.
it.
Yeah, that's it. It's what would that be? Interdimensional rather than intergalactic.
So you're okay with that?
Yeah, possibly or no. I don't know.
Well, as long as you're clear.
I haven't formed my opinion more than I don't like that. So.
Well, there you go. There's a topic for your next video.
That's not a topic. I'll just say no. I've made the decision.
It might be a brief video then.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's under 2 hours, which is the current record. No, 3 hours, which is the current record.
Wow.
Anyway, so in his youth, I've got that he's a bit wild. He likes gambling, going to taverns. He's got a bit of a rebellious youth phase, being the son of the emperor with I don't think they've got like a Prince of Wales equivalent that they're expected to do anything because it's not any guarantee that they're going to be the emperor next.
True.
So he's just like he's going to be the next Prince of the Reichland.
Yeah.
That's what he's entitled to, but he's not going to be the emperor.
No.
But not guaranteed anyway.
Not an unreasonable position.
No, so he's got a lot of time on his hands and not much to do. He does get trained by Ludwig Schwarzhelm in sword play, so he's got a bit of training there. But again, rise to power wise, he doesn't show any ambition. He doesn't sort of lead the empire's armies. He doesn't take on any sort of responsibility. He's not given any responsibility.
No.
He's just milling about, really. He does. I didn't realize he was married. I learned this. I thought he was single, but no, he's married with a child.
Yes.
Did not know that.
But it doesn't seem to come up very often.
Well, it comes up so infrequently that me, a massive fantasy fan, didn't know about it until I researched this topic.
Well, I mean, he didn't take them on campaign with him. There wasn't ever a model for Karl or Mrs. Franz or baby Franz.
No, they never got a model or any fluff.
Clearly a baby Deathclaw as well.
But yeah, to give to his son. So there's nothing really in his background up until the point his father dies that shows any interest or hints that he's going to become a great man. I don't know if you found the same.
Yeah, he's not bothered. He's not interested in what's to come. He's just living in the moment.
So he could easily have wasted all his potential. However, His father dies in 2502. So he automatically becomes the Prince of Reichland and an elector count. But I'm not giving him anything for that because that's automatic. It's not like he sought it or he trained for it, or
it just falls in his lap.
Yeah, it's given to him.
Yeah.
So that's his rise to power. It's something that's automatically going to happen. You don't get any points for that.
No. And like you say, he does make up for it somewhat after he's been prodded by just about everyone.
Yeah. So he goes to the electoral college, which I think there's 15 electors in, and he votes for himself, but he openly says, "I'm not bothered. I don't want to be the emperor." I don't know whether it's because the only other viable candidate is Toddy.
Boris.
Yes, it's Boris.
And he even says maybe it should be Boris because he's more experienced.
Yes,
of a
he's
warrior.
older man, experienced warrior. He says he probably should go to him, which he openly says. And he says he's happy to live his life as Prince of the Reichland, just living with his family. So Reichland's not real. It's in the southwest of the empire, isn't it? Just
Northwest. Well,
no, it's below Marienburg.
It is. So it's kind of just like the west, I suppose.
West, yeah. It's not getting it like Nordland is from the Chaos, the Norskins, and it's not getting it like Ostland is from stuff that comes through Kislev.
Yeah.
And Stirland sort of protects it from Orc and Border Prince nonsense. So he wouldn't really have that much of a difficult elector princedom to deal with.
No, it's a relatively with the trade on the river and its position. It's it's reasonable,
and it's quite advanced. It's not like Stirland, which is dirt poor. It's got culture and a nice capital city, and
and having been capital, it always helps.
Yeah,
institutions are there, and rich people like
so
to live.
That's his campaign slogan. I don't really want to do it. vote for me, and somehow that gets him 4 votes.
Yes,
and then I've got that. So Todbringer gets 8 votes, which isn't enough to decide ultimately on who's going to be the emperor.
No,
so they have to do another meeting. I think it's about a fortnight or something.
Recount.
Yeah, they have to do. Yeah, they have to go to the Empire Supreme Court to decide. And it's in these. I don't know. It's even that. It's about 10 days in between the meetings, and that's when he decides he doesn't want to do it and manipulates basically every other elector count into voting for him.
Yeah, and it's not just enough. It's literally everyone.
Everybody, bar one. I think he wins it. He wins it 14-1.
Yeah.
The elector count of Ostland, who's an old friend of the family, sort of tags along with to help them with his electoral campaign. He goes back to Altdorf to do some patrolling work with the Reichsguard. The Reichsguard say, "We're with you, whoever wins," because they're anticipating getting replaced anyway if Boris Todbringer wins the election. Yeah,
which is reasonable.
So he says, "No, you're supposed to protect whoever the emperor is," but they're saying, "Well, I don't think that. Yeah, that we're probably out anyway." He gets attacked by goblins, which he manages to kill a shaman and the Arachnarok spider it's riding on. So this is the first sort of hint that he actually has some martial ability, which we'll come on to. One of the Reichsguard tries to assassinate him, which he's saved by the Green Knight.
Yep, just as he's wandering through.
Yeah, it turns up where he wants to.
Yeah.
This is kind of the start of where he starts to take the job, going for the job seriously, because Kurt Helborg chews him out for not wanting the job. He's sort of saying, it's not that you think a better man could do it. It's that you're selfish and you want to stay in Altdorf and just have a nice life and let somebody else sort out the empire, and that would be a total waste of his talents, and that's sort of what triggers him to actually start really wanting the job. So he's got 0 points up until that moment.
I mean, Hellberg's got it exactly right.
But yeah, he is. Yeah, it's the kick up the arse you needed.
Yeah. But he's not the first. Sorry, he's not the only one to be giving that kick. He takes a lot of kicking.
He does, because then he goes to meet Leoncoeur of Bretonnia, who essentially tells him the same thing. He's had some vision of if you don't become emperor, the empire and the old world will be destroyed. Some chaos wasteland.
But to be honest, though, I mean, this is a bit ridiculous. The concept of the whole world being destroyed, it's pushing it a bit. So he should really have taken that with a pinch of salt.
Well, he's on the back foot, isn't he? The Reichsmarshal has said, "Listen, you're taking the piss. You need to get a grip now." And then the king of it's not as advanced as the empire, but it's
also not an ally of the empire.
No, it's not.
They're not like necessarily outright hostile, but they're certainly not friends either.
They're rivals. At the second, at some point in, I don't know, it's 4th or 5th edition, there was some hinting that Bretonnia was going to conquer the empire, but they dropped that. But it's still, their knights are supremely powerful, and why this king would be involving himself in imperial politics is a bit odd.
Yeah, and that comes up later in the mistakes for me.
Oh, right, okay. So he has this audience with Lewin. They get attacked again by greenskins.
It's getting careless now.
Yeah, seeing a bit of a trend here. They kill him though. There again, some more martial prowess there.
He's just leveling up. That's all it is.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's rapidly leveling to be level 10 emperor before he starts. And then when he comes back and he's committed to doing it, this is where you start to see how much of a good diplomat and manipulator he really is. Because he makes a deal with a series of elect accounts and essentially just buys their votes with promises of what he'll do.
Yes.
So he promises the elect account of there's a halfling who's got the halflings for some reason have got a vote in the electoral college.
Well, the moot does have,
yeah. That's some incompetent emperor in the past for a laugh gave him a vote in the electoral college. And he comes up with some. They say we'll vote for you if you tax the Ster River.
Yes.
To bring the trade towards them, we'll vote for you. So he says fine, and then he goes to see the elector count of Stirland, who's annoyed because nobody has taken his claims that vampires are real and are invading Stirland and a real problem. Nobody's taking this seriously. So he says, well, if I take it seriously, and you're going to benefit from this new tax policy I'm implementing, he passes it off as his own.
Yeah.
If I give you the tax, that'll benefit you, and I take this vampire threat seriously, will you vote for me? And the elected count of Stirland says, of course I will. Yeah.
No, and this is a good thing. In some ways, this has been sort of, again, just dropped in his lap, this taxation policy. But he has at least the ability to recognize that he can essentially sell the same dog twice.
He sells it more times because Talavicland, I read this one, this is great.
Yeah.
To Talavicland, the elected count, he says, I will give you, if you vote for me, I will give you the honor of defending the Northern Territory. And I'll give you the rights to trade with Kislev. And to the elected count of Ostermark, he says, I'm going to make Talavicland take more responsibility for defending the northern border. And they say, oh, that's a great idea.
Yep, fantastic. So there is Yeah, it's a good mark in his book for that one.
So all that Nordland asks is that they expel Norse raiders from their border. He says fine.
No problem.
And then to get the Grand Theogonist and the 2 Archlectors votes, there's some sort of brawl breaks out in Altdorf between Sigmar supporters and Ulrich supporters. And Franz gives this inspiring speech about how, they shouldn't be fighting each other. They should be working together. And Volkmar at this point just says, yeah, I see it now. I'll vote for you.
Good enough.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
The alternative, realistically, he's not going to vote for...
he's never going to vote for Boris, is he? Because he
Boris.
abstained originally.
Yeah, he wasn't going to vote for anyone, but that'll do. And then he wins 14-1.
Yep.
So that rapid comeback where he starts to give some hints of his diplomatic ability and his martial ability, that's what ratcheted up to 6 points.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. Because he left it very, like the night before revising. I thought he did some sort of version of that.
The last minute cram.
Yeah. But it worked for him. So
yeah. Because he clearly has ability.
He
has some talent in this area. But it's just that unwillingness to use it, which has held him back.
Yeah, he loses points because he has to be told on several occasions you're wasting your life.
Foreign leaders.
yeah. Your greatest human kingdom rival is saying you really should be doing better than this.
Yep.
That was my justification. I don't know if you found anything different.
Essentially had the same. My notes, or the vast majority of my notes for this is didn't want it, had to be pushed.
I think that's a fair summation of his path to the top.
Yeah. Well, nice easy one to start.
Yeah, it was some unity there.
Yeah.
This is what was difficult about as well, unpicking all of this into different layers. I found it much harder to do for Karl-Franz because they're all sort of interlinked.
Yes.
I found more so than the God Emperor. But for next bit, military prowess, I gave him a 6.
Have you been looking at my scores?
I
also gave him a 6.
Wow. This is not fixed, ladies and gentlemen. We're in different houses. We haven't seen each other's answers.
No.
Okay, well, I sort of completely monopolized Rise to Power. So go on. Why do you think he's a 6?
Okay, so he demonstrates various times that he is a capable fighter in personal combat. There's instances where he defends himself, as was mentioned earlier, against goblins and orcs and whatever else, and assassins. He's also demonstrated that as a commander, obviously coming up later when he is actually the emperor. He frequently commands troops in battle, and he does relatively smart things. So he doesn't go for personal glory. He doesn't go, right, I'm just going to lead the charge and win that way. He uses the army that he has effectively. So there's when he fights the Northern Raiders, he uses his wizards to work out where they're going to come ashore, and then he just lines a big gun line up on the front. It's like, brilliant.
As they're coming off the shoreline, he's just bombarding them into oblivion.
Yep. Fantastic. That's exactly the kind of leader you want. There's no it's more honorable if we go into personal combat, or we're not going to ask for help from anyone else. No, get your cannons here. Just line them up. Sorted. Dealt with. Yeah. Next problem.
That's that dusted off.
So he gets good points for that. The problem he has, unfortunately, is that whilst he does frequently hold his own, there are times when he's really on the back foot and only just gets through, particularly in personal combat. There was in the Battle of Blackfire Pass.
Yes, I've got this.
Yeah. So he has to pray. Pray for help.
He's essentially he's getting beaten up. He's being beaten even with Galmaraz.
Yeah.
But he prays to Sigmar, and I haven't given him points for winning that combat because he's clearly been empowered by a divine being.
He had Galmaraz, the most powerful Warhammer ever, literally the symbol of the game.
Yeah. Yes.
Created by the dwarves at their height of their power.
Yeah.
Beyond their abilities now, beyond even the Master Runesmith Alaric the Mad. We're going into a little bit of dwarf lore.
Whoa. That might be next week.
So it's... And, I mean, obviously Deathclaw wasn't around at this point because he got wounded. But still, he almost lost. So that's always a bad sign. So I come out with a 6 because generally pretty good, but frequently just scrapes through. And if you include the end times, again, kind of just sort of scrapes through. Until he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, don't spoilers. Don't ruin 0.5. I had pretty much the same thing. In that he's a pretty good fighter, but it's limited because he is just a man. He's not. If you compare him to, I don't know, a high elf prince or a strong orc war boss. You factor in Galmaraz as well, but he's not as good as them.
Yes.
He's very good for a human. But he's not as quick as an elf or as strong as an orc. And when you compare it with if you compare it to say a Chaos Lord, who is the giant people anyway, who are ridiculously strong and have got chaos abilities, I don't think he wins that fight.
Yes,
that's on the personal side of it, and on the warfare side of the general, he's very good at like you were saying. He tends to go for he goes for who's going to cause the army to fall apart if he kills them.
Yeah.
He kills the what's he called, Morkhal someone or other, who's like a Eastland chaos invasion guy. Just kills him.
Yeah.
That's what he tries to do at Blackfire Pass by killing the orc war boss. Doesn't go totally to plan.
Nope.
So he knows he's got very good tactical ability. That he knows if you cut the top of it, if you cut the head off the orcs, chaos, it'll be easier to beat them.
He understands his enemies.
Yes, whether or not he's capable of actually killing them, he does kill a lot of them.
He does.
He's pretty good at it, or very lucky. But it's not a guarantee. But he's got a long history of success. Like he beats the Bretonnians with the Reichsguard, so he beats a nation famous for its knights with his knights. He beats the Norse invasion into Nordland, and he does deploy what he's got. He's got the cannons. He's got state troops and things. So he makes good use of what he's got. But he's more of like a symbol. He knows, like the Emperor, the God Emperor. He knows the value of his personal presence.
Yes,
you see him in these suit of armor and on Deathclaw, and he knows that'll inspire the men, which is why he does these things like leading charges and going after the biggest. Like he tries to kill a giant at Blackfire Pass, I think, with Deathclaw, which is how he gets wounded.
It does, yeah.
So he knows the value of these actions, and that's what he uses to inspire the troops. So I think he's more, although he is a good fighter, he's more of a inspirational leader kind of thing.
Yeah, he's a commander.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, martial prowess has to encompass both aspects.
Yeah. And I get that's what I marked him down for later, which I won't spoil it, but it's connected to that. But yeah, I think 6 out of 10 is a pretty good reflection of his military ability.
Yeah. I'd say so.
Yeah, he does it. Does it a lot. He's well practiced at it. But they're not even in game. The troops and the armies he's got are not the best. Like, they don't always win. That it's a real it's always a real problem to these invasions that keep coming in, and he has to keep leading these armies to stop them.
Yes,
which perhaps takes him away from other things that he should be doing, which we'll get onto later.
Yes, and the Empire, in the sort of, if you look at the parallel with the Imperium, doesn't have the luxury of infinite numbers.
No, absolutely not. And it's not as unified in the same direction as the Imperium is.
And looking at a somewhat meta vision of it, if you are constantly fighting, that is bad. Because, again, the Imperium constantly fights and obviously is in a terrible way. The Empire cannot afford to be constantly fighting. The more they are fighting, they don't have the resources to be able to put into that.
Or they don't have the men or although that's the most populous human nation, you can't replace the losses that they take very quickly, or certainly not at the rate that the Imperium can.
No. So a truly great military, or a much higher scoring military leader, would not only be good at fighting, but would be good at preventing the need to fight.
Yeah.
Destroying the root causes, whether it's orcs in the forests or Skaven in that, or whatever. Obviously, this is it might well be beyond the abilities, the capabilities of the Empire to do so. But it might be very harsh to judge him in that way.
That's a problem I had with it. Like, is he limited? Is it himself that's limiting him, or is it the situation he's in that's limiting?
Yes.
Is he actually doing the best he can? Which is why I found him a lot harder to mark.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think it all has to come down to, you've got the top job, you are responsible.
Yeah, it's up to you, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So he's not I still think, like, Chaos Generals, are they better? They seem to have a lot more success. I don't know, but then the quality of their troops is higher.
Yes, what they've got to work with is better from a martial standpoint. If you would compare the from Chaos just as a whole as an economic entity, there's nothing there, and the Empire could win on that. And the fact that they do manage to confront and defeat Chaos invasions is because of their technological and essentially their economic strength, as opposed to just a pure military strength.
It's really hard to 6. I'm sticking with 6. Let's see if we have the same score here for political ability.
Interesting.
Well, I've given 2 scores. I crossed one out.
All right.
And I've crossed the other one out.
Oh.
No, I'll go. Yeah, I gave him a 7.
Oh, we have diverged.
Oh, what did you give him?
I gave him an 8.
See, I had an 8, and then I was wavering between 8 and 7.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Again, we've been very close then.
Yeah. Because I think his administrative political ability is his real strength.
Definitely.
Starting back from the start, where he manipulates the votes to win the election to get the job in the first place. So he knows, he can read his political rivals. He knows how to play people. He knows what they want. He's got this trick of instead of giving people what they want, he'll sell it to them that he's punishing the people they don't like more than they're going to get punished.
It's always a better motivator.
Yeah. So yeah, this tax might hurt you, but it's going to hurt them a lot more. And oh yeah, I'm up with that. That's fine.
Yep. So yes, and it's that understanding of human nature is very useful for, and because the Empire is what's the word? It's, as I say, it's very political. Obviously, it's a political thing, but because it's a very loose federation, really, it's the ability to wheel and deal, and you don't command obedience
No.
from the other electors. You have to negotiate their support.
No. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to put him up away. I'm reading my notes. Like, no, he definitely deserves an 8. But yeah, it's again, when you compare him to the God Emperor, the God Emperor his word is law, and everybody believes that.
Yeah.
The Emperor Karl-Franz, he hasn't got that luxury. They're constantly fighting with each other, threatening to secede, trying to manipulate each other, trying to play for favor. The elector counts, they fall at they've got grudges against each other that go back hundreds of years, and he has to direct the country in the way he wants it to go, and he can't just say, he hasn't actually got an army personally loyal to him to say, do it this way or else. He's got to persuade, he's got to manipulate, and he's very, very good at it, and he's holding the country together in a lot of ways.
Yeah, sometimes despite the others.
Yeah. And he comes up with clever solutions to these political problems. Like I think it's Nordland and Hochland. Nordland's going to invade Hochland over some ancient issue where they think they own some sort of land, and the elector count of Nordland's got this huge pile of gold to pay the mercenaries with. So it's politically bad news to get the other electors' armies and then invade. So instead of that, he just sends Balthasar Gelt to transmute the gold into lead. So now he can't pay the mercenaries. So now the problem's fixed.
Yep.
It's like he's got creative solutions to these. Like, where we are, I'm going to have to get the army up there, and I'm going to stop there. I'm going to have to sort it out that way. No, he thinks his way around it, and all right, how can I solve this problem without any bloodshed? Any Empire soldiers are not going to die for this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely deserves that 8.
Yes,
definitely changing that.
A non-martial solution is the best.
Mm.
And he because he doesn't just go like I say, he doesn't just reach for the blade every time.
No,
he deals with it, and combat is the last resort.
Because it's the Empire is strong, but if it keeps expending it, especially on internal wars, it's gonna it won't stay strong very very long.
Yeah.
And I think he fundamentally understands that about the Empire, that it's he's got to keep it together and not fighting each other and not wasting its strength.
Yes, that's why he is the right man for the job.
Yeah.
He also, as well, it's not just the elector count, it's also the cults of Sigmar and Ulrich. The fact he's managed to keep them
who should
quiet.
fundamentally hate each other.
Like the fact he gets voted for by both as emperor is
how did he do that?
It's a skill.
I should tell you how good he is. But he's also in the army book. It says he's a patron of science and industry and the College of Magic. So he is, unlike the God Emperor, he does seem to be interested in strengthening the institutions that he's got to use.
Yes,
which pays dividends militarily because they then make all this stuff available to him.
Yeah,
cannons and mages and things like that.
Yes, he's far more effective at getting the most out of those who serve him. He understands the individual motivations and manipulates them.
It's not always bad to manipulate people.
It has some some bad connotations.
Yeah,
but when used right for their own good,
he's doing it in the national interest rather than his personal interest.
Exactly.
I think is the slight difference between why the God Emperor does things and why he does it.
Yes, he clearly has the Empire's interests at heart.
Yes, he's doing what he thinks is best for the Empire, even if it does cost him. Oh yeah, he actually fulfills his promises as well. Contrasting to the God Emperor, his reward for loyal service is to kill the Thunder Warriors.
I'm done with you now.
Yeah, finished. The promise to Nordland he makes for the Electoral College vote to repel the Norse invaders, as we discussed before, he does do it. So he's, yeah, in a Saving Private Ryan style. So, yeah, he's an effective administrator in that people are more inclined to believe him and believe his deals because he does follow up on what he says he's going to do.
Yes, like that trust is not something that you can just conjure up or enforce. It's got to be earned.
Yeah,
which he does.
He also improves the pay for state troops, so he does have consideration for his underlings, the people right at the bottom.
Yeah,
which assists in his administrative political abilities.
He deals with like all levels of society. There's nothing that's just taken for granted.
I think that's again he understands the full consideration of how the Empire works. In that, the state troops are the best he's got, so he can't really afford to lose them for want of better pay.
Yeah.
I also got that he's got good relations with the dwarves and the elves.
Yes. It hadn't even occurred to me with the, but yes, his foreign relations for the times when he's not fighting.
Yeah.
But generally are in a, if not hostile, they're not certainly not hostile, but it's not overly friendly. But it's I can work with you.
Yeah, it's totally. It's not the same as the God Emperor of you must die if you're not human.
Yeah, it's it comes back to the whole. It's my opinion is not as important. It's state interests, and it's in the interest of the Empire to be broadly cooperative.
Because I think
when chaos comes knocking.
There's a big human trading colony in Lothern, so they must get on, which is like it's the only place in Ulthuan that they're allowed. Humans are allowed, but that's like a massive. That is quite a.
That's a coup. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's Karl-Franz that negotiated that, but he's certainly maintaining it.
Yes.
And there's all this. You probably know this. There's the Imperial Dwarfs, aren't there?
So the Imperial Dwarfs was a thing back in like very early in a good few editions back now. Something like 3rd edition, 2nd edition, and earlier, something like that, where there was dwarfs who lived in the Empire. And whilst it's no longer as big a thing as it was, there's a strong there's always the acknowledge that some of the other races do live within the Empire because it's a bit more cosmopolitan. But back then in the early editions, there was a large contingent, sort of the Dwarven Quarter, and you used to get dwarves in Imperial armies. Just like you used to get like halfling units and was there elves? I can't remember if there was elves or not. It used to be a lot more permissive. But there were certainly dwarfs. And I think they were more tied in with the Imperial engineering side there.
Right.
As in supplying the more advanced things. The sort of classic fantasy settings where there's the Dwarven Quarter, and if you want more high-tech things, you went to them.
So where the top-level blacksmiths would be.
Yes, that's the one. So, but that is really trying my memory. That was a long time ago.
Just throw a curveball at you. What else have I got on here then?
So he dealt with the the mad Count Marius Leitdorf,
Hmm.
who was doing his mad self.
Didn't he butcher a load of halflings in his nice sort of dark element in his past?
He was, like there was some spurious campaigns, I believe, and some dodgy orders and decrees. So he sends his buddy Ludwig Schwarzhelm to keep an eye on him, and apparently manages to rein in the Marius's excesses. So it perhaps could have. I mean, it probably would have gone him higher. I felt he dragged his feet somewhat on dealing with it, but he did deal with it. But that's about it.
Oh, he uses. He understands political symbolism. Like if he's, that's why he makes total use propaganda-wise of Gal Moraz.
Ah, yes, yeah.
But he also uses it as a sign of, like, if he's carrying the Reichland runefang, he's acting as Prince of Reichland, and if he's carrying the Gal Moraz, his actions are to be for the whole empire.
That's a good point, actually. It does give it's a strong symbol for the federal or the state, which hat he's wearing at the time.
Yeah, so he understands. It's like in the military, where he's best as like an inspiration. He does the same kind of thing on an administrative and political level.
Yes.
I think that's about it. So 8. Very good.
Yeah, all even still.
Yeah. So mistakes and errors. I gave him a -4 for this.
Oh, wow. I gave him a -3.
Oh, very close. But I may change my score.
Of course. It's a prerogative. Well, there wasn't a lot that I was able to find that I felt that he had sufficient agency over. Really, I got, like, when his during the whole election, and when he returned from Bretonia, and he goes marching up to the Grand Theogonist and goes, "Oi, Volkmar, the Lady of the Lakes." Whoa, 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 whoa. Let me stop you there. Who?
Do you not mean Sigmar? Because that's the only one I'm listening to.
And immediately he manages to scupper his initial chances by invoking a foreign deity to Volkmar. I feel he should have had some reasonable level of awareness not to do that. So that's that for me. That's his first mistake, and he does end up correcting it and dealing with it.
Isn't there some sort of fudge where they go, Sigmar probably worked through the Lady of the Lake?
That sounds like a Treaty of Mars situation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, I'm sure Sigmar was behind it all anyway. But yeah, vote for you.
Yeah, mysterious ways and all that. So, like, on the admin side, he's made a little bit of an error there. And as we were saying last time, an unforced error.
Yes.
And then the other one I've got is from his military career, which is the Blackfire Pass, which is defending a pass, going reasonably well, until he gets flanked.
I've got this.
Whilst defending a pass. Now, I know there's a whole, there's possibly secret routes or, it's the warmer world, there's magic and things like this. But you have magic too. And flying, you yourself are literally on a flying creature. A quick scout of the area is like, oh, look, there's a pass there. That leads right to the back of our army. It's probably wise to put someone watching that just in case.
That is a particularly egregious error because he loses his left and his center and the artillery.
Yes. That almost costs them dearly. Yeah. And that's the size of that battle and where it was. Like losing that battle would have been major repercussions.
It's a morale thing as well, because that's where Sigmar won.
True. Yes.
So you can't be the emperor who lost it.
No. So, but that is the only two that I've really picked out. So he does get some a slight minus, but it's nowhere near the litany of errors that was iterated last time.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with a 4 because I don't know if it's his fault or not, but he does seem to have to do everything himself.
True. Yes.
He has to, like Blackfire Pass. He's in charge of the army, and then it goes wrong, and then he seems to think, right, well, I have to go and fix this. I will charge the Orc war boss. He nearly gets killed. So that would have been the Imperial army destroyed and losing the Emperor if that hadn't gone well, which right until the very end it looked like it wasn't going to go well.
Yes.
He had to send the army, but he goes with the army to Nordland to take on the Norse invaders. It just seems that he has to do everything, and he's the one like pushing the Empire. But it doesn't seem to factor in what will happen if he gets killed or something bad happens to him on these campaigns and things he does. And because the Empire is such a viper's nest, what would happen after? None of the elector counts are rated as anywhere near his equal.
No.
So he's quite cavalier with his life, which you can see why he's doing it, and it's like a final roll of the dice, especially at the Blackfire Pass.
Yeah.
But like the giant comes through, and so I'll get onto Deathclaw and I'll have a go at it, and then Deathclaw gets in. She's like, oh, right. Now I'm left for the horse, and so he's quite cavalier with his life. Where else is he going to go? He doesn't. I know he can't really, but he doesn't. There's no succession plan, but he's not really he's not grooming an elector count to follow him. He's not considering what would happen if he's not there, because he's such a he's sort of almost, it's like the Napoleon thing you were saying last time. He's dictating 4 letters, he's doing this, he's going there, he's stopping that invasion, he's sorting this tax thing out. When you take him out of the equation, I think the Empire is in real trouble, and he's not really addressing that. Maybe he can't. The political system probably just won't allow him to do it. But it's not even like on the law. It's not really on his mind that's a problem.
No, and it's just sort of occurred to me that really, what can really sum him up in all ways, in the martial ability and the administration, is he's firefighting.
Yes.
He's forever running from what's the next problem? Right, I'm off there. I'm going to deal with that.
Yeah,
and then off to the next one, and on, and never stopping and going, right, how do we stop the fire starting in the first place?
Yeah, but his hands are tied in a lot of senses. He can't. If he tried to impose hereditary rule, the Empire would just break apart.
Yes, yeah.
And there's no guarantee, there's no inclination that he's interested in hereditary rule, or he thinks his son should be emperor. Well, I didn't know he had a son until recently.
You'd think that he would be pushing for that, and we've already he's already shown his ability to manipulate the other elector counts.
Yeah.
So a renewed burst of that skill to manipulate the system, which is whether for the good or ill, it's manipulating the system for its own betterment.
You're sounding very close to the God Emperor there.
Yeah, the ends justify the means is coming back into it. Selecting who he thinks would be the best successor and preparing the ground for that to make sure that election goes the way it needs to go.
Yeah.
So maybe just not in his character to do that.
But it is, because he did it to get the job in the first place.
Maybe he thinks, well, I don't know. Maybe it's like for someone else, he wouldn't be, he wouldn't agree with it. I don't know. It's difficult.
There's just lack of succession planning, or
Yeah,
because he's got the institutions to rely on. The quality of the elect accounts and the generals, they're not bad, but they're not as good as him. But if he continually solves all the problems, he's not letting them deal with it. But then if he does let them deal with it, is there a risk that they'll think, oh, I could be emperor, or I could go for the elect account of Sterling and I'll do what I want. I'll break away. So I didn't want to mark him too much down for this, because a lot of it might be beyond the political system he's working in, just might not allow him to do it.
It's a difficult system to really to influence, because of its nature, because of its distributed power. I mean, obviously you see it in like real world history with the Holy Roman Empire.
Is that based on
funny, just, a few little parallels.
Yeah.
And even into and obviously into Germany after that as well, with the nation, the many nation states of Germany.
Yeah, because they didn't give up their own independent governments until like post World War One.
Yeah, it literally took a war like so grinding that it all got subsumed together, and they lost their independence without even realizing it, until it was too late. So, yeah, you can argue that the system is against him, but if he's a truly great emperor, can he not twist the system into something that is more suitable for him to have the influence? Like, if we accept the premise that he's in it for the good of the empire, would he not then do what he would consider the best for the empire, even if that meant changing the system?
I don't know. That's why it was very hard to mark him. On the easier one, I've got not restraining Leitdorf an earlier phase.
Yes, he did let it run on.
Yeah, and then after he sorted him out, where his personal champion had he sent his personal champion to follow him, to make sure he didn't go any crazy, and then he sort of became too fond of him, which links into Blackfire Pass, in that Marius Leitdorf is insane.
Yes.
But he gives him command of a section of the army, and then he charges the Orc war boss and gets killed.
Yeah. Which is for the good of all.
Yeah. Maybe he did that on purpose, but I don't know.
But yeah, should he not have just removed him?
Yeah, it's just that you're not. Well, can he remove elected counts? I don't think he can.
This is the political system that exists. But
you could at least not give him military command, or not promote him and reward him.
I just think that he's initially built up as someone who is able to manipulate the system to his own ends, and then later at this point he's like, oh no, it's just that's how it is, so I'm just I'm stuck with it.
So he's what is it in Yes Minister, where he's house trained by the system?
Yes.
Yeah, but other than that, he doesn't really do all that much wrong.
No, he's steady. There's no truly catastrophic errors.
No,
there are things that could potentially have gone catastrophically wrong, but he gets through them.
He's lucky, I think.
Yes, there's a few times when he's lucky.
Yeah. The suicide charge seems to be his last path of last recourse. It seems to work out for him. But
either I win and I'm a hero and it all goes great, or I die and it's not my problem anymore.
Yeah, somebody else can deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, the last category is being alive. And if we got the same score here, I will be shocked and amazed.
Well, no, we have diverged by 1 point, I believe.
1 point, yeah.
So maybe we'll diverge back the other way to even it up.
You may be surprised as to what I've scored him for being alive as well.
Oh, okay. Go on then. What have
I've
you
given
got?
him a 5.
Oh no!
What? What?
I've given him a 5.
Wow. So
Okay.
across 5 categories, we are out by 1 point.
Yes.
Right?
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, we'll run with that.
Yeah.
My justification for 5 might be different to yours, though.
Yeah. Well, let's go with that then.
Right. So my justification was, in my head, he is alive, and the end times didn't happen. So he gets 10 out of 10.
Yes.
However, the vast quantity of published lore states that he very clearly is dead. So I just split the difference.
Yep. I got about there, to be honest. The only other things I would add is that whilst all through obviously the Warhammer fantasy lore, he is alive and well. It's only just. There's many times when he perhaps should have died or could have died. So I marked him down on that. And then we have the whole end times where again he does die, but even before he dies, in the run up is like he almost dies as well. He's forever just hanging on, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Because he does. I'm not that familiar with the end times, but he is in sort of like Titanic fight where he nearly dies and Deathclaw nearly dies, and then he heals somehow, and then and then he has the final climactic fight where he does actually die, but at the time of dying, his spirit switches with Sigmar's spirits, who then possesses him.
So he clearly gets a higher score from Sigmar than from us.
And who are we to argue?
So yeah, so middle of the road.
Because I think, to me, he's still alive. The end times didn't happen.
Yeah,
but I can't deny the last evidence to the contrary. So the middle ground seemed to be the best option. Who did he fight in the end?
The Glotkin or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
Was that one before.
that he gets. He gets his arms cut off or something, and he's killed. And then, but just at the right time, Teclis unbinds the law of light, is it, or heavens, or whatever it is, which is some ridiculous. Somehow Sigmar has got trapped in one of the winds of magic, and Teclis unbinds it just at the right time.
God
damn! Possesses Karl-Franz's body, and then just kills the Glotkin and everybody. I think the demonic hordes. He's in the game. The rules for him are insane.
Yeah, which makes him interesting, and it is, as deaths go, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's what you would have wanted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the world then blows up, so it was all for nothing.
Yeah. Oh well. Never mind. There is supposedly something. I'm sure that I read somewhere where they're talking about him being reborn into the Age of Sigmar, into the. I was going to call them Sigmarines. They're not Sigmarines. I'm not supposed to call them that. Stormcast.
No, Stormcast.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, or if I've just randomly heard that, or even made it up. But it seems like the sort of thing would happen.
I don't know much about the game, but any crazy shit can happen apparently. So why not?
all is welcome.
Yeah, you can have a mechanical death claw or something.
That'd be pretty cool, actually. I'd like it.
Patent pending, Games Workshop. You're not allowed to use that. You're not allowed to use that without paying me. Right. So
there we are.
It's not going to take that much to calculate the differences in our scoring. Our scoring here.
Oh.
So you give him 55%. I've given 52.5%. I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, he's. I feel in many ways he's kind of just presiding over the empire until the end times and it all blows up.
He does a good job in terms of. He's a good ruler, and he's the right man for the right time.
Definitely, yes.
And he's competent. I think that's the that score is competent.
Yes.
He doesn't need to be exceptional. He's exceptional at keeping the empire together, and then he's just good at everything else, which is exactly what you need, really.
Yeah, and you have to compare him to what previous emperors have achieved.
Yeah,
which has been substantially less.
Yeah, like
in
for
many cases,
700 years, there was 3 emperors who couldn't bind the nation together. And other ones who've sold off Marienburg for a load of cash and stuff like that. So, yeah, by the standards of the empire, he's a very good emperor.
Yes.
Comparing him to other rulers of the time, he's certainly more active than Finnibar, the Phoenix King. You don't really hear much of it at all.
No. Although that is perhaps more an elven thing, though.
Well, it depends, because the Phoenix Kings are so different in depending on who they elect. They go from like wizards to super brilliant generals to slightly perhaps over enthusiastic warmongers who haven't considered the fullness of their actions.
Prideful idiot.
Caledor II did nothing wrong. Let's just remind ourselves of that. But I think, yeah. Well, no.
No, you agreed. That's it. It's on the internet now.
Yeah, but I can cut that out.
No.
But in terms of leaders of the old world, I think he does a very good job.
He does. Yeah, to some degree, it feels a little bit like we've sold him short.
I don't think we have. I think these are fair scores. It's just purely. This is why I felt when I marked the Emperor, the God Emperor. I thought I've marked him really harshly here, but I really like him. I think he's a great character, and
yes,
I don't think it's just the categories we picked to mark on are unfortunately the ones that sort of reveal his weaknesses and his. But it doesn't mean I don't like him. I think he's a great character, and Karl-Franz is one of my favorite characters as well. So I don't see this half marks as a bad thing. I think it's brutal honesty about what he's achieved.
I do think it very much exemplifies the fact that their levels of influence that they were working at.
Yes,
like the Emperor, as the God Emperor, has some extreme scores.
Yes,
because he was working on such a massive scale that even a small thing that he does is going to have a massive effect.
And the total potential of what the God Emperor could do is so infinitely massive.
Yes.
Compared to Karl-Franz, is just a man.
Yeah.
Ultimately. He doesn't have the ability to create genetically modified super soldiers.
Are the Reichsguard not genetically modified super soldiers?
They are not, no.
Oh, right, okay.
Their beards might suggest otherwise.
Great swords.
Yeah. Nice hats as well.
Yeah.
But here's a one. Would the Imperium be better if Karl-Franz was in charge of it?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So are you suggesting that we just, swap the two?
Yeah, the two swap completely.
At what point? When is
just before the Horus Heresy for Emperor to Emperor, and say just after the coronation for God Emperor into the Empire.
Okay. So you're essentially putting Karl-Franz with what we was established as a better man management set of skills.
Yes.
So potentially not like preventing the Horus Heresy in its entirety.
I don't think that Karl-Franz would let the Horus Heresy happen. I think he would realize straight away that his subordinates weren't getting on.
Yeah.
And there was some serious problems.
But he's immediately got the advantage that the Primarchs are essentially his elector counts.
Yeah, that's just kind of the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the Emperor, the God Emperor in the fantasy world, would just annihilate everything
on his own.
Yeah, he wouldn't need. He could disband the Imperial state troops because he doesn't need them.
Don't worry, I've got this one.
Yeah, another Battle of Blackfire Pass. Is it? This is getting boring now. Zap.
There's no. You know what? No more pass. Collapse the whole thing.
Destroy it. Who's the Archaon? Just snap his neck. Right. Who's next? Demons out the. I'll collapse the polar gates. I'll destroy them. There'll be no. Don't need a vortex. I'll annihilate this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's
Problem
just
solved.
Don't make me come up there.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
So he was crowned, and then the day after, he destroyed the realm of chaos and shut the polar gates for all eternity, and the world was peaceful for eternity after that.
Yeah. Oh, well, there we go. There's the solution. Everyone wins.
So the biggest reveal of this series of videos has been if you just swapped the Emperor for the Emperor, it would be better for everyone involved.
Yeah. And no one would even know because they're both called the Emperor.
That's right. It's a solution with no problems.
Now we just need someone to do some clever photoshopping.
Right in below. Or to our PO box that we've apparently got.
No, actually, that has been a very interesting topic.
I've quite enjoyed it because it's a lot more, well, in that I've done any research at all, which I didn't really for any of the other ones. Yes, I've enjoyed it.
I think like a lot of people in the hobby, they obviously know about Karl-Franz and the God Emperor, and everyone knows the highlights. But it was only when I started like reading, like with this in mind, trying to pick out things that they did, and oh yes, I've only just realised some of the depth some of the more niche events, things that you just read over in passing and go, oh, that's cool, and sort of, and then never really think about it again. But going back through and actively looking for what represents their military ability, what represents their ability to govern, what their errors are. They put them all together, and it was particularly for the God Emperor, putting the errors together, and you start the list goes going up and up. It's like, actually, there was quite a few.
Yeah, I found that with especially when you just start to step back from. Yeah, he's great at the military side of it, but he's totally neglected the rest of it.
Yes.
And the contrary with Karl-Franz is, yes, he's a great statesman, but he's not the best military. But he doesn't have to be.
No.
He's in a different situation to the God Emperor. But it's interesting to contrast them, and there's not really that much of a parallel between them. But I don't think one inspired the other.
Oh no. No, there's and the idea of a single leader, and that leader being known as an emperor, is so common an idea anyway.
Yeah, it's not linked.
Yeah. So, but no, I feel like you've set yourself a high bar for your for your dilemmas to pose.
Next week, who's better looking, Sanguinius or Petiravo?
You know what? You've matched it. You've matched and surpassed.
See, the only way is up. Well, thank you for coming back for part 2. I'm not going to just say which emperor is better because I like them both. So anyone who's listened to all 3 hours of this, you've just wasted your time.
You could combine the scores to work out what the actual comparative scores were.
All right, okay, we'll do that then. So
to save people having to troll back through the previous one to look for the numbers.
Right. So I gave Karl-Franz 21 and 20. So Karl-Franz in total gets 43 out of 80. And the God Emperor of Mankind gets between us 32. combined score is 32 over 80. Oh, that's 40%. And Karl-Franz gets 53%. Well, 53.7. So 54%. Rounding
respectable.
up.
Yeah.
So we have fundamentally proven that Karl-Franz is 14% better than the God Emperor of Mankind.
Well, there you go.
That's science, ladies and gentlemen.
Can't argue with numbers.
No. And on that bombshell, thank you very much for coming back, Gavin, for that revelation.
Thank you very much for having me and entertaining my weird theories.
Yeah, that's any time. We'll have to get you back on for the Petuabo v Sanguinius fashion parade.
I've begun my research.
Please do like, share, subscribe to our OnlyFans, and perhaps this or whatever. Thanks very much, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.